Hey there, folks. Hey there, folks. Plisken by 51mm. And today I figured I would do my video on the discussion of what my ammo was doing through both my M1A and my Remington 700 243. Alright, so I've showed this before. This is a chart I have. Well, not really a chart. It's going to be because I got a space over here to write down information. But I printed off a picture of my Redfield Revolutions reticle. Now, I have 3 guns that have a Redfield Revolution 4 to 12 by 40, and that's my M1A, my AR-15, and my Remington 700 ADL 243. And I did this so that way I can kind of give a visual explanation of what my ammo is doing. Not only for you, the viewer, but for me. This way I can, pull this out of my reloading book and look at it and say, okay, so that's where, like, I was holding here at 200, and that's where it was hitting, or I was holding here. So that gives me a visual reference, so that way I can go back and, just kind of glance at it and, okay, so like 145 grain ball ammo was hitting right here. Which it was. Alright, so yesterday with the 168 grain ELD bullets out of my M1A, I was surprised to know, or to find out, that literally like right in here, right there was where I needed to hold. Because see, this was the first time I had taken a 168 grain reload. I'm just using this as an example here. This is a Hornady Black 168 grain AMAX bullet. I saved one for a rainy day, but I'm using this as a visual example for my reloads. And I was surprised that my reloads, I thought my reloads were going to have, I have to hold right here on this thick part of the crosshair right in there to hit at 200 yards, but I was surprised to figure out that it was just right in there. So really at 200, all I got to do literally is just aim at what I'm shooting at, and the bullet will go right where I was hitting. Now, be it the ELDs were kind of hitting all over the place, but they were hitting right there around that crosshair. I had one hit up here, and I had one hit like right in there, but they was hitting generally wherever I was putting the middle of the crosshair at. So that was good to know. That was good to find out. This was the first opportunity I had to take some reloads out to 200 yards and try them on a gong. I mean, yes, I've shot out to 200 yards with reloads before, but that was more of a, just a guess, a luck of the draw. Like on that deer at 200 I killed back in November, I was holding right in here with my reloads. So in actuality, I was kind of holding a little high on him. But now I know with my 168 grain reloads that I basically just hold right there. And there was very little up or down compensation that I had to give on that gong out there yesterday. So with that in mind, I also tried some of this BPXM80C CBL 762 by 51mm 150 grain full metal jacket ammo. Now this is 150 grain ammunition. I'll get a bullet out and let you all see. It's a full metal jacket 150 grain bullet. I set it down here by the 168. Now, I tested these too on paper at 100. And they were given about like a 3 MOA grouping, if I recall off the top of my head. I'd have to see the test video I did of it again. But this was basically performing like your regular M80 ball ammo. Now, where my hold was with it at 150, or I apologize, at 200 yards, was right in here. right in there, right between where the crosshair meets and in between where the crosshairs meet and right there at the thick part, right in there in the middle. So that was interesting to find out, because when I initially went shooting out to 200 about 2 years ago, my 200 yard hold was right here, but I was using 145 grain Serbian M80 ball. It was Serbian ammo. I still have the box of bullets that I could go get for reference. Okay, so this was the stuff I was using 2 years ago at 200 yards initially. It was a Privy Partisan Serbian 7.62 by 51 millimeter M80 ball, and as you can see on here, they do not mention anywhere a bullet weight. They just give you the caliber and what type caliber it is, like an M80 ball. But they do not mention anything about bullet weight. So I had to do some researching after the fact, of course. Let me set that right there. Let me get one of these cases out, let you all see. Now this was actually some pretty decent stuff, this Serbian PPU ammo. This was some pretty decent stuff. That's what the back of the case looks like. It says PPU 16 7.62 by 51. There's actually some really good stuff, but it shoots a 145 grain bullet, and I thought it was shooting a 147 grain, because that's usually what an M80 ball load shoots, is a 147 grain bullet. But this stuff here is 145 grain, so that's why my 200 yard hold was down here on this thick part. So I have learned that with 168 grain reloads, I basically just hold right there, right in the middle where the vertical and horizontal crosshairs meet. With 150 grain, I hold right in here, and then with 147 to 145, I hold down here on the thick part where that triangle forms. So that was all pretty interesting to me. Now I will say, since I got to use 168 grain reloads at 200 yards this time, and holding right there, that doesn't make me fall in love with ELD bullets. I'm going to go to hollow point boat tail match rounds in 168 grains, because them grouped to .50 the other day when I was shooting that playing card, whereas the ELDs were grouping them. I got a 4-inch group with ELDs out of reloads, and I even used once shot Remington brass that worked really good with the AMAX bullets, but the ELDs were having none of it, so I'm switching over back to the hollow point boat tails. As for my 243, I'll get some of my 243 ammo out here. Let's see. 243 bullet. Good 6 millimeter. Let's set that there. Now I gotta be careful, because that's just a 6 millimeter 308 basically. So these two they have the same cartridge length and everything. Easy to mix up. Now with my 243, my Remington 700 ADL with reloads, I was shooting 38.3 grains of IMR 4064. That's what my little info card says. Focus camera, there we go. And it was an 80 grain Sierra Plisken. Now, I let my dad take over my 243 because we was having a real hard time getting it to shoot good with reloads. Between when we started moving to when we got moved here, there was a problem with the reloads, because we had reloaded a whole ton. I'm talking like at least 100 rounds plus of 243 way back in 2017, and never got around to shooting any of it. We just loaded it all up, and it just sat there for 2 years. And then when we got moved in over here, I was finally like, oh hey, I'm wanting to shoot my 243 again and see how everything, just test out the rifle, see if everything's, still zeroed properly, and, nothing's happened with the gun. Well, you know, between last year when we was moving 2018 and this year, and you know 2017 when we loaded all that, we loaded a bunch of these as plinkers. So we had a big old mishmash of 80 grain and 100 grain 243 bullets with various different powders and stuff. We was loading them up to get rid of all of them, and then we just didn't do it because we had a bunch of excess bullets that we didn't need, and we was going to shoot them all up. So we had a big old conglomeration of just weird oddball 243s that were throw-togethers, and we couldn't tell what was you know, match ammo and what was plinking. So I just shot it all up and started from zero all over again. And that's why back in like March and February, you know, January, somewhere in there, way back like a few months ago, you all seen me shooting my 243 a lot, and I had them 243 videos where I was shooting all my 243 reloads. It was to get rid of all the, you know, all the loaded ammo and start over, because we couldn't tell what was match and what was, you know, just throw together plinking stuff. So my dad, he decided he wanted to take on my 243 and get it going back to where it was. And it gave him something to do, because he likes to reload a whole lot. I do too. But he gets a little bit more into it than I do. So he figured that a 80 grain bullet is what shoots best in my Remington 700. And I got some stuff I need to do to my Remington 700. I think I'm going to get a Trigger Tech trigger for it. Because the Trigger Tech trigger in my dad's 30-06 Remington 700 is performed phenomenally. You barely breathe on that thing and it goes off. So it really, it takes the anticipation out, because you get your crosshairs on the target. You know, you take your time, you work through your breathing techniques. You know, you steady yourself, and then you just squeeze the trigger and you've hit the target before you've even had time to flinch or you know, pull your shot or anything, because it's just right there, and that helps increase accuracy tremendously. So I'm thinking about getting one of those triggers for my Remington 700. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. He has worked up loads for my 243, and what I found yesterday with an 80 grain Sierra Plisken bullet with 38.3 grains of IMR 4064 is that my hold for my 243 is about right there where the 150 grainers is for the M1A. Right in there. And I have to tell you, I mean, they were grouping pretty damn good out to 200 yesterday. About like what my 168 grain reloads for my M1A were doing. But they just had a little bit more drop. They're hitting about down in there, right where that notch is. In fact, I got a target I'd like to show you all. Now, I showed this yesterday in my video, but I think I'll re-emphasize. Now, I put a 80 grain 243 bullet in the 10 ring at 200, and where I was holding on that target was I put this vertical part of the reticle right here, this vertical reticle part right here, right there on the 10 ring. Right there. And I squeezed the trigger and pulled. I just did it for shits and giggles. That's why I only fired one time. I honestly didn't think I would hit there because of the wind, and you know, just, you know, I didn't just expect to hit there, but I went down there and looked, and sure enough, I put a 6mm bullet right through that 10 ring. Right where this vertical reticle right here between where they meet and this thick part was. I was holding right there on that 10 ring. At 200 at max magnification, and it put that bullet right there in the 10 ring. So that was pretty damn impressive. So all in all, I hope you guys thought this was interesting. I know I did. I've got more experimenting to do. We do not get to go out to shoot 200 too often. The only reason we got to do it, you know, yesterday was because of good weather and the fact that my uncle did not plant corn in the field. If he'd planted corn there, we wouldn't be able to do that. And we have no ranges locally that go out to 200, you know, official ranges. We're going to try and keep going out to further distances, testing hand loads and factory ammo. At least I am. I'm going to be testing factory ammo out to further distances, but it's not something we can do on the regular basis because we don't, like I said, we don't have no ranges around here that have distances out that far around here that you can like sit at a bench. It's like an official range you can go to. All the ranges around here go out to 100. So I'm going to keep going out further, you know, just in the private lands that we're able to get to, and set up our AR-500 and other targets. Going to keep going on out and, you know, just gauging how much bullet drop I have to go through each time. Because that 200 with 168 grain bullets was right there, so it's untelling what those would do at like 500. It may hit down here, you know. This stuff you got going to be finding out. So, until next time, see you all in the next video.